We're live now.
Takes a second to come in, I guess. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's gonna take a second to come in.
Yeah, okay. Okay, there it goes. Okay, there you are.
Okay. Okay, here we go. We back. We back. We back. We back. We back with Sonny Vacaro. Let me bring you in. And just
Hello.
there we go, Sonny. There we
I
go.
can't hear him.
Hey, let me ask you this, Sonny. I want to take it back, like when you were
I'm here.
Yeah.
yeah, I want to take it back when you were growing up,
Okay.
uh, Trafford, PA, and just as a kid, just falling in love with sports, like just, huh? Can you hear me?
Charles, I didn't hear what you asked me, sir.
Oh no, I was talking about taking it back to when you was growing up, and just falling in love with sports. Can you hear me?
I can't
For
hear.
some reason I can't hear you, Sonny.
Okay, I can hear you now. Ask.
Okay, all right, I can hear you now.
Okay. Ask your question.
I was saying, taking it back to when you were growing up, when you were young, just falling in love with sports and baseball and basketball. Like, tell us about that, and I know it's been a long time, but just tell us about growing up in Trafford, PA, and the type of environment that was.
Well, it was a very good environment. It was a well, how would I say this? It was a section of Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, that basically had all the nationalities, blacks, whites, Serbians, Croatians, Italians, whatever, spread out throughout the town. There was only 5,000 people in the town. I was, my senior class was only 53 people in it. So it was,
Wow.
and what we had there is we had different churches. So we had like 7 or 8 different churches because of all the nationalities. Obviously, maybe only 100 and some people went, or maybe 200. And we had a beer garden for every nationality. They had the Italian club, the Croatian club, the Irish club. I mean, so it was really a town of the 50s. I grew up in a community in West Pennsylvania that the main form of work, you either worked in the steel mill, the coal mines, or the railroad. And then they built the Westinghouse plant down there during the war. And that's what it was. It was a small town, and we used to play, streets like you guys did and everything. Only ours were more condensed. I couldn't have been brought up in a better time. I was during the war, obviously, but I was a baby, and I born in '39. The war starts '41. Um, both sides of my family went. We both sides lost. My father lost a brother. My uncle Jimmy was a prisoner of war. We had a park that they still celebrate. The people. But the thing that I can say, and I would bet a lot of people that you had interviewed or you've met on your life, because you've met a lot of interesting people associated with sports. There were 3 things that were like preeminent in town, right? The priest, the doctor, and the football coach. And then your mom and dad.
And you play football. You play football. So tell me about that experience of you playing football. Now keep it to me, give it to me straight, man. You was a stud or was you a bum, man?
No, no.
Tell it, give it to me straight.
I was for real. And I was, at that time in my life, I was as good an athlete, I guess you can be. I got a scholarship, even though I graduated, I forgot to tell you, third in my class, third from the bottom of my class. So I was never academically inclined to do anything at that time, because
Wow.
my dream was to play baseball. My best sport was baseball. I was offered a contract before high school was over, by the Pirates to go play in Class C or D down in West Virginia. I was offered a football scholarship to University of Kentucky, and a man named Blanton Collier was the coach who later became the coach of the Cleveland Browns. And they had an Italian kid named Babe Pirelli, who was from Rochester, Pennsylvania, who was my idol. In fact, I'll say this to your audience. To this minute of my life, I am Italian-centric and Pittsburgh proud. I was very proud of my upbringing and proud of where I was born. So I was a good athlete in comparatively that era. There was no question about it, which I never thought I'd go to college.
You went to Youngstown. You went to Youngstown State, right? And you played football there.
I played football at Youngstown State because Kentucky gave me a scholarship, but then they farmed me out to California. I played junior college ball for a year out there because in the 50s on the West Coast, that's where all the great football players, Southern Cal and UCLA and all those schools, they all went, to junior college for 2 years. OJ went there. I'll just say that because he's the most famous football player, and especially in that era. My hero was a guy named Dick Bass at the University of Pacific. Go look that name up, right?
Yeah, you know what, Sonny? I was just about to ask you that, because you were a mentor to so many people. I was going to ask you, who did you look up to and who was your mentors? And because you was a mentor to so many people, so that was one thing that I wanted to, kind of ask you.
I would have said, when I mentioned Pirelli because he was a Pittsburgh kid, but if you go to my wall, in my home, there's been one man in my life, athlete, since I would understand. That was Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente, I have his pictures everywhere, and he played for the Pirates. I was a Pirate guy. The day he died on New Year's, going to Guatemala or going to Nicaragua, or where the hell I swear to God, with a plane wrecked and he got killed. And, he is and will always be my idol. I mean, he was my motivator. And I like him because obviously he's a great baseball player. I think I fell in love with him because of the person he was. Because, again, he was from the islands. He wasn't necessarily white in a real white man sport, baseball. I used to go watch the Homestead Grays. Now we know a lot about the Negro Leagues, as they call them. Luke Easter, Josh Gibson, his great-grandson, played at my Petey Gibson from Shenley High School. My Uncle Jimmy used to take me to see the Grays. And Luke Easter, who played for the Cleveland, it's mystical now because I was a child, and he hit the ball with Pitcairn over the fence, and it ended up the Woolworth 5 and dime across the street. I'm telling you stories of my youth. But baseball was my love. And then when I went to football, then I went to Youngstown State. I got hurt in football, so Kentucky took my scholarship away. That's what they still do to kids today. But the football coach at Youngstown liked me because they wanted me to go to their school, and I wasn't going to go. I was going to go bigger. I wasn't going to go. I was a cocky kid, I guess.
So how you transition to basketball? I mean, you was baseball.
It was the biggest accident in the history of mankind. I went to Youngstown on a football scholarship, right? Mr. Beatty gave me a scholarship, even though I got injured in my sixth game. It was like 3 or 4 games. We played in a bowl game. Danny Villanueva, we were very good. Danny Villanueva was our quarterback. You may remember him as being a great kicker for the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams. In the Villanueva family, his brother was Primo Villanueva from UCLA. We had an All-American end. We were pretty good. And, and I go to Youngstown. I go to fall practice. Speed, I guess, was my thing, okay? I couldn't run anymore because my back still hurts 60 years later because of an injury. I really got hurt my senior year in high school. And the basketball coach, an Italian guy named Don Pirelli, was the assistant football coach. And I'm on school. I don't know what's happening, but I'm not going to even play at Youngstown, which they were pretty good. I mean, and I was grateful the guy gave me a scholarship. They asked me, Don asked Dyke Beatty, can I take Vacaro with me? I like his attitude. I'll keep him on scholarship in basketball. Not to play. He liked my enthusiasm. Maybe he'll get me some basketball players from the Pittsburgh area to come to Youngstown. Now, Youngstown was pretty good, and the basketball team was very, very integrated. They were good. The best players were Herb White, Beanie Gordon. I can tell you names that you may not know, but they were great, great players. They were black. So
Did you get any? Did you get in many players?
two of them in the Hall of Fame today. Red
I
Jones,
was there.
two kids I got about 9 or 10. I was there for 4 years. They kept me on scholarship for 4 years. The round ball wasn't beginning yet. I started doing what you guys did. It wasn't AAU. I did a bunch of kids from the Pittsburgh area and would go to the tournaments, tri-state. They were pre-AAU tournaments. In fact, we went to the Sharon Hoyle tournament, and if you go back through history, one of the first great tournaments in all sports, and basketball especially. And we played everyone from Chicago East, including New York and Buffalo. Bob Lanier played there. Connie was too old. We had a lot of the great New York kids. And I took this team from Western Pennsylvania.
Hi.
I won it twice. Then I started the round ball because
With Pat the Caesar, right?
and Pat the Caesar, who grew up to be one of the big, he brought the Beatles. He was a partner at 26 years old. He was my next door neighbor. We started the Dapper Dan. Pat was a rock and roll promoter, and he just retired. One of the greatest. He should be in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Somebody got screwed. Pat
Is he related to Gary the Caesar?
No, they're not. I thought that too.
Right. I always wanted that. What was he related to? What's the name? So
in fact, there's different personalities. Gary DeCesar has a lot of belief in himself. Pat DeCesar is a very quiet guy who knows what the hell he's doing and creative. Not that Gary DeCesar is not successful. So
right.
So that's how everything in basketball happened by accident, and the rest. The Dapper Dan changed my life.
Right. So let me ask you this, Sonny, real quick. In terms of the Dapper Dan, I look at that as, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I look at that as the blueprint for the McDonald's All-American. Would that be a great assertion?
Charles, can I? If you were right here now, I'd go one left and a right.
No. Listen, because
the Dapper Dan was 13 years ahead of McDonald's.
Right. That's why I said it was the blueprint. They copied it.
They actually wanted me to I went to North Park up in Illinois, or up in Illinois. That's where their headquarters was. They wanted me to do it, and I wouldn't. It's a whole hard story. In fact, I haven't had a McDonald's hamburger since they BS me. They turned out to be a whatever, but it's a great. But
they copied your format.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to get out on the feed, Sonny. You can be modest. I don't have to be modest for you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I wanted to get out on the feed. You know, the Dapper Dan was 13 years before the McDonald's All-American. Yep. They copied your format. Yep. Period. They copied your format. Like, I can say that. And so I just wanted the people that's going to view this to understand that. You know, and just like I said, you know, before we had to restart everything, and I talked about, you know, your influence on the grassroots, and I talked about, you know, how these college coaches, every college coach should send you a check, because if it wasn't for your ideas and your marketing strategies, you know, hey, let me pay the college coaches and the kids will wear the shoes. If it wasn't for you implementing that, people wouldn't have these $1 million. They got $1 million contracts now. And I think back then, who was the first person you signed up?
Jerry Tarkanian.
And how much? If you don't mind sharing, how much was that contract for?
$10,000 in 1976.
And now guys are making millions and millions of dollars.
They're making millions.
They make $1 million off of your marketing strategy, off of your idea. So, you know, I want to give you your flowers while you're here and let everybody know, man, like, this is why I have you on the feed, because you're the man. And when we had that intro, Down with the King, you know, the Run DMC, everybody back when I was coming up, when we was working ABCD, we wanted to be Down with the King. You know who the King was? Sonny Vacaro. So so let's go, Sai. What's your most memorable moment of the Dapper Dan?
Calvin Murphy. He came in, little peanut, 5'9", second year of the game. He scored 37 points. We got on an airplane. It was the day that the riots were in Pittsburgh and LA, and 1967, I guess, 66, whatever it was, second year, 66. And Calvin put on a show. It was a little Italian kid named Sam Iacino, 5'10", who went on to have a very good career in the small college Gannon. But Calvin was the man that sold the tickets. Then we sold out every year after Calvin for the next 17 years. And
Yeah, y'all was in big arenas, man. Y'all was in big arenas.
Well, and you know what? When it got to 77, when we had, I think Fran McCrafferty played that year and he was the MVP. And, we had Mo Howard and all those guys and Jelly Bean. And, we had all these Philadelphia kids. I can say this without any thought at all. The Dapper Dan, we had 1 year, we had 217 college coaches. This was before there was McDonald's now. In the audience, in the things, 217 because the Post-Gazette counted them, and we gave them a special section. You came to our practices. We practiced like Friday morning at Civic Arena, in a local junior college, and Thursday night when the kids were in. You couldn't get into the practice sessions, and it was a happening, a happening that whatever. We had plenty of great games and great things. The most exciting one, it wasn't in Pittsburgh, was LeBron James. I mean, we had 19,678 in Chicago when I moved to the Chicago stadium, the United Center. So, but all the games, all the kids were great, and there were late comers that weren't anybody, and all of a sudden they became somebody. But the round ball,
the round ball, Dapper Dan, the Dapper Dan, the round ball classic. Just so guys on the feed, so guys like Alonzo Mourning, Chris Webber, Kobe. Start naming some names, Sonny. You know the names.
Carmelo, everybody. I mean, they all.
Carmelo, Shaquille O'Neal. Everybody played in this event, man. Since he started it, and it was a great event. So,
just for something here to say to your audience, okay? When it was McDonald's and I, then Michael's then had a game when I left because I did 3 different companies, obviously, and there was like more than 2 games. The NCAA put your ugly nose in it and limited the kids to playing 2 games, if you remember that at all.
Right. Yeah. Then you only playing 2.
Yeah. Those Louisville class, all the games were good. They all helped some kids. And, Clay Thompson, the great Clay Thompson. I know his daddy Michael very, very well. I did radio shows with him, and he couldn't get an All-Star game. I got him into that classic down in Washington D.C.
The D.C. Capital Classic.
Yeah, the Capital Classic, right? I mean, but these guys put their nose in the NCAA. They put their nose in the camps, and the camp nose was like ridiculous because they made kids pay their way to come, and we couldn't give them uniforms. And I'd just like to spend a minute on where we are today with where the athletes are, and maybe they're going to be able to get paid pretty soon, because I firmly believe in that. You have to understand something here, and I know your audience is aware of it. I want them to think about it as much as the Jimmy Baker thing, okay? All these years, that you said something, and that's what made me think of it. When I gave the coaches pay, when I gave Tarkanian and John Thompson and all these guys the first years, we had 80. By 83, 84, Valvano wins. 84, John Thompson wins. 85, I think we had all 4 of them in Louisville. Nike didn't have one company, one team in the NCAA tournament in their first 10 years of their life. But what I said
that was pre-Sonny Vacaro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was.
Right. Pre-Sonny Vacaro.
And then we signed Michael in 84 too. I mean, so all
we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that.
And so, but the NCAA, and we're still fighting in the courts now, and I think Pennsylvania's got the bill up. It's so full of crap. It's so, I can't say this because I'd embarrass myself and embarrass your audience when they say, people always say that you're hindering. If ever there is a bias against an athlete, it's the NCAA perpetrating the myth of amateurism. Because the only thing that's amateur about the amateurism comes out of the words of the NCAA. It has nothing to do with the reality of the sport and the finances. Everyone else is an amateur and they're millionaires. I mean, to pay this guy who's the president $3 million a year, I don't know what the hell he does, but I want to just stay on something right now, okay? If again you look at the genetics of the sport, basketball, football. The only two sports that generate billions of dollars, as we now know. The COVID, we found out what COVID meant when they couldn't play, right? I mean, they got those games in, boy, this year, and they played those bowl games. You know, you could all die, and we're going to get you in Indianapolis. Thank God nothing happened. Thank God nothing happened. That doesn't mean something couldn't have happened. But I'm saying to you in this audience here, I never could understand why the athletes, why the kids wouldn't have been more like O'Bannon. I went to a lot of my closest friends, and they're still my closest friends, that didn't want to be Eddie O'Bannon to do the first name, image, and likeness fight with us. And Gary Charles was very, very involved with us at that time. He helped us, you know, talk to kids. Then I would talk to them after the fact, and after Eddie wins, you know, half the pie. But today, if never before in the history of sport, if the athlete, and mostly the minority athlete, doesn't stand up and be counted, they'll never get another chance. And everyone's going to say, well, they get a scholarship. And I say to your audience, well, okay, let them get a scholarship. What if I get someone to pay for my scholarship? Can I then go get my name, image, and likeness? Can I then split the proceeds of what you get from the shoe companies when they give out $160 million contracts over the years? Do you think there'd be any scandals like there was, you know, the last 5-6 years at Louisville, at Auburn, at Kansas, at Arizona? Do you think those assistant coaches would have been the only guys that got, you know, are doing time or got a felony are mostly the black assistants? Very strange set of circumstances there. And no coaches. The only thing I would say to you and this audience listening to me is, at that level, and that much money being taught, you're trying to look me in the eye and say, Sonny, you must have been brain dead. And that's a bad thing to say, because unfortunately some people were like that and they lived the rest of their life being like that, and that's not good. And I didn't use it like that in him, but I wanted to emphasize what I'm trying to say to your audience. The head coach knows everything about everything at this level.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I don't want to hear I didn't hear. I don't want to hear I didn't know anything about it. This was the saddest thing overall I've seen. They still haven't penalized 3 or 4, and I don't want to penalize guys that aren't guilty. I know all these people. I know the coaches. I'm not rooting for them there. I knew the 2 guys that went from Adidas. I hired those guys. They're both implicated. I knew all. I knew Christian whatever, the kid from Michigan, whatever. His daddy was
Christian.
Yes, thank you. So I know all the people here. I know the agents.
Mm-hmm.
I only know there's a few of them, and there's a young kid that I'm close to, and I know because of Gary and some of the other book.
Yeah, Booker. Yeah, Book. Yeah.
Book's like everybody else. Nobody would have taken on the responsibility of what they were taking on without telling somebody they could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
No way. Ain't no way.
Exactly.
I mean, damn. The coach should get fired because he didn't know what was going on. I mean,
Right. Right.
So I wanted to say that. So I've seen a lot of things, Charles, as you know. I've seen bad things happen to kids, unfortunate things happen to kids. We've seen the great marriages, and we've seen tragedy. You and I both know that. How close.
Yeah, that's one thing, Sonny. One thing I respect about you, you always in it for the kids. It's the kids first, and that's one thing I respected you. But I want to take it back a little bit, and because we was on a Dapper Dan. At some point in time, you had the meeting up there in Beaverton, Oregon. So, and I know you went in there with your sack, but I just wanted you to explain to my audience, like, how was that meeting, and you met with the Nike people, and this is before you was with Nike, and just tell my folks, how your mindset going into there and what actually happened.
When you said sack, I want to make sure your audience doesn't think I had a sack.
Oh, the sack, the shoe sack when you try to get the shoes, when you had those sandals.
I was running a camp in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania when I started at Dapper Dan. This was the late 60s, early 70s. And I used to have high school kids there. Swear to God, one day, a kid comes up, and it was a ski resort. So we had to make our own thing, and there was hills there. So, and I'll call him Charlie, because I always call him, I don't remember his name. Charlie comes up to me and said, Mr. Vacaro, can I see you? And I said, yeah, Charlie, what do you want? I thought, whatever you asked him. He said, Mr. Vacaro, can I ask you a question? And certainly, what is it? He said, can you ask the people, I may have missed out a word here. This is what he said to me, it's God's truth. He said, can they make we called them tennis shoes then. It was a tennis shoe you wore to baseball, basketball, hockey, tennis. We had tennis shoes, okay? Except in the wintertime, then you put a clodhopper on, especially in the East Coast. And I said, what do you mean, Charlie? He said, well, I only have tennis shoes and I have to wear them everywhere. And he put his head down and he said, you feel bad about that? I said, yeah, the only mom and dad can get till the winter comes, and I get the heavy ones, the boots, but they weren't boots, they were clodhoppers. And I said, you know what? I'll think about that, Charlie. Now, I don't know, because I wasn't designing or doing whatever. So that time escapes now. It's 3 or 4 years into, I'm now thinking of my ideas. And then Nike was representing a player, just signing contracts with the athletes in 1977. And I had Asian friends, because I was now by the 70s, the ABA is working. I was representing players. I worked for the ABA. I was trying to get kids to go, and the ABA would pay me like Larry Cannon. I helped Larry get in with the Miami franchise. I wasn't his agent, but I would recommend it because I knew all the kids from the Dapper Dan. I was the only All-Star kid. There was no McDonald's yet, okay? So I'm now working, and agent friends of mine, who grew to be close friends of mine, said to me, I said to them, do you know any new shoe companies? I have this idea about shoes. I went to my Italian shoemaker in Trafford, and I said, I'd like to show them to people. So my Italian shoemaker, made me a bunch of shoes, but I had nowhere to go. Converse was the only shoe. They had Pro Keds, they had Converse, they had Adidas in America, but Adidas was like first class, and that was big money, and they had the leather already. So they gave me a meeting in Portland, Oregon, with this called Nike, but I called it Nicky. In fact, a lot of people for the first time it was Nicky. So I go out there with the idea of telling them about these 9 shoes. They were white leather. We cut holes on the side like this, and we could, for like air. We had a disco shoe. That was the years of the disco. We put the stuff on top of them would stick on the white shoe leather. We had toes out in the front. We had a bicycle shoe where you can put your shoe on like a bicycle and have the heel in the back, and then a strap around. Then we had Velcro on one of them. Those were the 9 shoes, my shoemaker.
Right.
I take them in my daddy's potato sack on an airplane, paid my own way, $132.50 one way. I remember, 1977, okay? I showed them my shoes. I met all the people. They thought I was a foreigner. They had me investigated, I find, because they thought I was part of the mob. Seriously, true stories. And they wanted to keep my shoes. So I left them with them. I never saw those shoes again. Then they called me about a month or 2 after them, because Jerry Davis said, what are you going to do with Sonny Vacaro? He was one of the agents, he and Louis Chappelle. And he said, we were thinking about some things. What about the shoes? And we said, we'd like to talk to Sonny again. They never still said anything. So this time they brought me out. And here's what we talked about. They knew I had this all-star game called the Dapper Dan. They wanted to get involved in basketball. They said, how do we do it? They didn't talk anything about my shoes. I never got my shoes back. Swear to God. Mm-hmm. They used Velcro and a couple other things, okay? I invited them to the Dapper Dan. The reason I said 1977, I think it was 17,000 people in the stands. It was a great game. It was on national television, HBO at that time. ESPN wasn't a thing. HBO did the game with Haywood Hill Brown and Bob Cousy. Uh, that's how it started. That's how it started. So I go to Nike. The shoes that Charlie told me about never got made, but the reason I'm with Nike is because of Charlie, because my shoemaker friend made with me. That's how Nike started. They wanted to be involved with Dapper Dan. I made them the sponsor until they fired me, and that's what it was, Charles. Simple as that.
So, you were doing consultant work for them, right? Because from that point,
Work for who?
were you doing consultant work for Nike, or what was your title with Nike? Because
No,
because
I was a consultant for 3 years before they put me under a contract.
okay.
Yeah.
And then how did so what came after that? Did
Jordan.
that hmm?
Valvano winning the championship. We won the NCAA with Jimmy Valvano. Then we win. Some more things. Then we signed Michael in '84 because of me. I never met Michael in my life.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about the whole thing with Michael, because you know people need to know. The
need to know that. Let me just say, I signed Michael. There is no way in hell that anybody else in the world could have, including George Raveling, who was my best man, and now he's my Judas. Michael lied and Phil Knight lied. That's all I'm going to go into it right now. There's no doubt what I did. None.
Nah.
So let's just move on. Michael turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened for everybody. Nike company, endorsements, whatever, okay? Because he was the perfect man with Spike Lee to do those commercials. It was like the sun and the moon, it all got together and there was light everywhere over Earth. Michael is not a charismatic human being. He's not somebody that gravitates, you become friends with right away. Lots of people, I'm not saying that negatively, but what he is, what he was, what he will live forever in being is an entertainer via sports. What he did, wearing the shoe, communicating with all the other commercials, made him the millions and billions of dollars that he's made, because now he's partners with Nike. Who would have ever thought that in '94? But not only that, made everybody else, all the players, the Zion, Kobe's, whatever, everybody happened after Michael was successful. And if Michael wasn't successful, I'm fired. Nike goes under. I mean, you can't go back and replay history. You can't, And the one man that's obviously and he's famous now because he's a brilliant man, is Spike Lee. I mean, Spike, that was the first thing Spike did. And, the whole movie thing and, and Spike himself, they were dynamic. All the other things were fine, bunny rabbits and the Larry Birds and all the other commercials. But if you really want to be honest, it was this guy, Michael Jordan, with an unbelievable talent, who then translated his talent into capturing a country ready for basketball and black players. There was a Michael Jordan before there was Michael, don't you? They just never got a chance. One was Julius Erving. The other one was Magic Johnson. Just so we understand it. You can't say Kareem, because I don't know if Kareem would have carried it over personality-wise. But if you say Julius, you're saying Michael. If you're saying Magic, you're saying Michael and Julius. I mean, they were that. They never got a chance to do that.
Right.
Nike opened the door. Brand Jordan wasn't on anybody's mind in 1984. Brand Jordan happened because I met him. We were going to name a signature shoe after him. It wasn't like Adidas and those people were running to Michael. That's like Kobe. That's a myth too, about this whole bullshit with Kobe and changing whatever on the shoe thing. Kobe was the next one. What happened with Kobe was even more ironic, because it shouldn't have happened with Kobe. Because when I jumped on your nose, the first of the show, and I said Kobe wasn't the best high school player. Why? He lived in Philadelphia. Sonny Hill won the state. Sonny was one of the great, great basketball men in the world. Okay, Sonny controlled Philadelphia. He didn't know
Right.
about Jelly Bean's kid, and they didn't even offer him money. And I offered him a lot of money because it went from 500,000. Michael, like there's a big story about Kevin in the paper today. You know, Kevin was the first kid to go out. He didn't get a big contract. I think my point to you is this thing that we have now is unbelievable because kids are now partners with these places. Derrick Rose had a chance to be.
But you gotta give yourself some credit, Sonny, because it was you and what's that, Robert Moore and Strausser. Y'all are the champions and the MVPs that made this stuff happen, and it came through y'all marketing strategies and y'all thought process to make this thing the way it is today. There's no Kevin Durant's and Penny Hardaway's and the Kyrie shoes and all that stuff if y'all guys don't do what y'all do and y'all thought process wasn't the way it was back then. So I know you like to be modest, but like I said, while I'm on this feed, I'm gonna talk my trash for you.
Well, and Charles, it's not that you're exaggerating or lying, whatever it is, but it's very hard to be the person in the second part of all that. What you said is true, and you brought up Penny. If Penny doesn't get hurt, it's interesting. Little Penny was more popular than Big Penny. They created a character in Little Penny, which was brilliant. And Penny Hardaway, I have quotes at the old Post-Gazette in Pittsburgh. He played in a round ball game. And Penny Hardaway would have been Magic Johnson. Penny was unbelievable. I mean, he was a great talent until he gets hurt. And we've seen that. You've seen it. We've seen guys pass. You and I both, right? Great talents, and something goes wrong in their life. And I was just going to go, it's funny, everyone's excited about, Mr. Rose over in New York now. If Derrick doesn't get injured, he's the first ballot Hall of Fame player. I mean,
facts. Facts.
Yeah.
It's Sonny, let me ask you this. You've been around and you've seen so many people, so many came through your camp. How good was Ben Wilson? How good was Benji Wilson out of Chicago?
Benji, I don't know how people relate to it, but Benji was the tear in my eye. I didn't know him like I knew. It was my first year there. I was there looking at 125 other kids. The round ball was the only thing on my mind. At that time, I sponsored him. Nike sponsored him. After that is when we took over, and I went from AFB to ABCD after that. What he did, because remember now, you got to put this in place. He wasn't the best player in Chicago when they brought him in. We brought a lot of kids. They brought a lot of kids into Chicago. What I saw of Benji that week was another one of those things. If you would have asked me, what did I see in Michael Jordan? And if I tell your audience, they're all going to fall off the chair, but probably know it. I only saw Michael once when he beat Georgetown. He hit the shot from the left wing. I don't want to go into this because it's self, whatever. And I don't want to be self whatever with you or your audience. But somewhere along the line, I have some sort of a feel for that because there have been other people like that. But when you talk about Benji, it's the saddest story in my life, and I've known death, on and off the court with kids, with non-relatives. But Benji was great. But I'll tell you who was my Benji before Benji. He didn't play in the Dapper Dan. He didn't play in the ABCD camp. There weren't. Raymond Lewis, a legend.
Oh yeah,
Raymond Lewis. I saw Raymond Lewis.
I heard about
him when he was not in high school, in college. I saw him in high school on the streets.
They said he never had a bad game, Sonny. They said he never had a bad game.
He never had a bad shot. Okay, if it didn't go in, it had nothing to do with it. It didn't go in. Nothing to do with that. Raymond Lewis. Now time evolves. Kids are bigger, different, whatever. But when you talk about the greatest there ever was, that's like that movie, The Natural. he was the greatest there ever was, but you never had a chance to see him. You never had a chance to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond wasn't a bad. There's a documentary on Raymond Lewis. If the audience can get it, they should watch it. But Raymond Lewis was his own worst enemy. He wanted paid like Doug Collins, who got drafted to be higher than
I
him.
heard tore Doug Collins up.
Yeah, he beat him. The game set match. He beat the hell out of Ernie DeGorio, who was a pretty goddamn good player. They went to play an exhibition game. It was the last time I talked to Raymond. I helped Raymond. Raymond was going to sign with the New York Nets at that time. Louis Carnesecca was the head coach. He flew to Pittsburgh, scrimmaged against the University of Pittsburgh basketball team, and a kid named Billy Knight was the pro for 15 years. Timmy Gergertz was the assistant coach here, arranged a workout. I arranged that for Raymond. Raymond stayed in my house. He was brilliant. But you know what? All he wanted to do was be treated equal and get paid. He had a bad ending, and he got on drugs. But I'll swear on graveyards that he wasn't on drugs when I knew him. He was on a drug of basketball. So when you ask me these questions, and Ben Wilson, I saw him that day. He separated himself. And it reminds me of what Tracy did. Tracy was the last honest guy picked. There's 144 kids, or 150. I don't know how many was over.
I was going to ask you about that too.
Yeah, well,
he almost didn't get in the camp.
No, Pammy helped get him in. His high school coach was against him. His high school coach called me 2 or 3 times. We were living in Pacific Palisades in California at that time, and the coach called me and said, "You can't take him." I kicked him off the team. He didn't play high school ball. His AAU guy, a guy named Alvin Smith, told me about it. And Alvin had good feel for kids. And then I talked to him, and Pammy tells me, Sonny, I think I would have done it, but I never had to make the decision. Pammy said, Sonny, you've never turned a kid down because someone doesn't like him. This coach doesn't like him. He says, you don't know it about that. I said, you're right, we're inviting Raymond. We're inviting Tracy. That's why Tracy McGrady came to camp. His coach didn't want him to come. You realize history? Again,
right.
I'm saying that Tracy's married, got 4 children, Hall of Fame, wonderful human being. I mean, damn. What's not to like? Who could have beat him up? And in the world that you've lived in and I've lived in, we've seen selfish people hurt people. Someone that didn't get something of the kid, whatever, work out something. You know, fame and money is a very rare combination because one begets the other. You usually, if you're an athlete and you're famous, you're probably good enough to make money. If you're a singer or whatever and you become famous, you're good enough to be Jay-Z. I'm giving you analogies here.
Right.
That world only lives in sports and entertainment. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like you go to one of these schools and become a doctor or whatever, and that's wonderful. But they don't get, and it's not good. I mean, they should get fame or whatever. But our sports and our entertainment world, and if you want to go one step deeper where you're going tonight, Charles, and you've taken me, it's something that the minority kid really, and I don't want to always use black because we've seen other minorities in sport and now in entertainment be, Hispanic and be, a foreign country or whatever. Asians are now, playing and doing well and all these things. So I've watched it. But at the early days, it was all black and white in America. Because as long as it took the black athlete or entertainer to get paid, I mean, I can remember listening to music, and if you ask me, I used to listen to music on the top of the hill in Little Trafford, Pennsylvania, coming from Randy's record shop in Nashville, Tennessee, because he had a 50,000 watt station, and I was listening to Big Joe Turner before anyone knew how Big Joe was. So my point is, everything took time to grow up, but sports and entertainment, we're still struggling. It isn't equal yet. Now we're seeing what? Got kids like LeBron and Kevin and Seth and Chris and all these kids are owning teams now. LeBron can own
Right.
the world one day. I mean, who would have thunk that from this kid from Cleveland? Who would? Because I know the stories that were written. You know them. We all knew them. And
Yeah.
you know, what about the entertainers? I can remember watching Sammy Davis from. I love Vegas. I went there an awful lot when I was young. I went there before Tarkanian got there. I loved to gamble in those days, and Pam and I got married in Las Vegas. But this is way before Pammy. I can remember Sammy Davis, you know, being the biggest show on the Strip. But I can remember him going to a different hotel and different restaurants. So the advantage I have of almost 82 years old, I've seen it all. So if you're going to play with me, and I mean that in a very negative way, if you're going to come up against what I believe in, not that I'm right, but what you've got to say and how you got to say it, not just to Sonny Vacaro, is about lying and exaggerating and hurting people. And I can say this on your show now because you got me all wound up. After going through my whole life here, 82 years, I've never said this for the last 2 or 3 years, so out in the open. A lie is the biggest harm that a person can do to another person. If that person is strong enough, it can destroy you if you're not strong enough to fight back.
Right.
See, a lie perpetuates itself forever. That's like this ex-president we have. You're watching it before your eyes, and I've witnessed it. So if you're a lesser person without the resources to, and I don't necessarily mean just money sometimes, okay? I mean, someone could say something about you and make it believable 10 or 20 years from now if their success and power lives on.
Right.
That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched it. So when you ask me the question, and you're getting personal or whatever, I've seen so many things. And when you compliment me, you know, I can only say this, you know, on this program. Well, I've said it on 1,000 programs. But I'm saying, when I talked about Roberto Clemente, the second people I would have gone to would have been, you know, again, John Carlos and Tommy Smith, you know, and Peter Norman, the white kid from Australia. This has been that way with my life forever. And when you talked about, you know, partnering up, and you mentioned my wife Pam, here's somebody that joined me in, you know, in the late 70s when I was first started doing all these things, and we traversed America. You know, she knew these kids better than I knew them. She knew them personally because once the 90s started, especially when I left Nike, she got to know everybody. And the kids, and even you remembered after all these years.
Yeah. Because
But my point is, that's my point, is we've seen the hard times. And when you listen, and I want to finish the Tommy and John story, they gave it up for everybody, like Dr. King. You know, other athletes have followed, great athletes, even Kaepernick. But Coleman earned a living. He was a very good player, earned some money, and then he made his stand. Then he was, obviously, they did to him. But Coleman was doing a different fight. In 88 or 68, when John and Tommy and you know, Peter stood on that stand, they got ostracized for life, like Muhammad Ali. Now we just go, everyone like, was that Muhammad Ali? You watched the day and night in Miami or whatever. Life changed.
I've seen it. Yep.
You know, life changed. So when you ask me heroes, a hero is somebody that we all think the hero ends up good in the movie, right?
Right.
And the cavalry saves the natives or whatever. And the guy on a horse comes in and picks the lady up and, you know, goes down. Doesn't happen in real life. So I wanted to stay on that lie thing because we were going through a
Right. So can I ask you this, Sonny?
Sure.
Now this is just about some fun times that I had in my life as it relates to you, like working ABCD, And so ABCD for me, this is what I always said about ABCD and working for you and obviously Gary. Shout out to Gary Charles. He helped me a lot because if it wasn't for Gary, I wouldn't have got close to you and Miss Pam, man. I wouldn't have been able to work the camp. But I said, well, Sonny is going to have the best talent there, right? So as a coach or whatever I'm doing, because I used to work with Mr. Cossack, so I would be the guy putting the little stamps in the little band so the kids would be able to play, making sure that they had, their classes or whatever. I was even at the door one time, and, I was coaching with Coach Ellaby, so I got a chance to wear all the different hats. What I say about working ABCD is it's going to be the best talent there. This from a stats standpoint, you're going to get taken care of with the gear. You're going to have some nice Adidas stuff. And, because I was Adidas. I wasn't with you when you was with Nike. You're going to have some nice Adidas stuff. You're going to get a good check, and you're going to get fed 4 times a day. And speaking about 4 times a day, the first year I worked, I was running around with Anthony Lopez, picking up the KFC food and all that stuff after the night games and all that stuff. So, ABCD, man, I love those times. I love those times, man, ABCD. And I got a chance to see some pretty good ball players come up and play in the ABCD.
You know what? When I go back through everything, because the round ball was obviously the first thing I did, and very proud of, and Gary's continuing with the big time tournament out in Las Vegas. Those things were obviously, I got to say round ball because my life doesn't start before round ball. But I think the most successful thing that people like Gary, all the Garys and everybody else and all the players that you guys like you brought to our camp was the single most successful entity that I ever did as a whole with so many people involved. Because I think we gave a lot of kids a chance. A lot of kids blossomed. They come in, nothing. And then, never forgetting, we can almost remember the dunk that Stephon had. We can remember Tracy McGrady's dunk on the poor kid who, passed away early. We can remember, LeBron beating Lenny. I mean, that game lives forever, right? I mean, everyone saw LeBron beat Lenny. We couldn't have got all the people in to say they were at that game. It's like, 20,000 people saw that. You only get 5,000 in the gym. So it was just a great thing at a great time in a great place in New Jersey because we had control of the Eastern Seaboard. We had control of the Eastern Seaboard, and that's where basketball started.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, that was the best, man. I was talking to Gary earlier today about that and about ABCD and about the times we had, and it was great times, man. It was great times. I was trying to invite Gary on, but I can't bring him on. It said he don't have the latest something or whatever. I want Gary.
Gary's saving the world right now with Atlas. My man Gary's going to be.
Yeah, Gary's on the feed. Let me shout a few people out because I seen Kenny Anderson join in. I seen Rasheed Wallace come in.
Anderson, Rasheed.
Yeah, I seen Gene Banks come in.
Oh.
Cause I texted Gene earlier that I was going to be on with you, so he said he was going to try to hop on. So I seen some people that Dapper Dan and ABCD that came up under you.
Oh my God, Kenny! Oh my God, one of the greatest players of both of them. Rasheed, I can still remember you in Detroit. You didn't. I missed you on one of the things. You played in round ball, and you were sitting on the floor there waiting for everything to up. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was it. But because my man brought you up earlier, one of the best that ever played, and one of the. It's almost redundant when I say it, and some people think I say it for just the effect. I would never do that. I would not make less of a value of the person that I'm talking about, or not inflate somebody because I know them better. But I could start at Philadelphia. There was times where I started in Philadelphia. When I started at Dapper Dan, the first 13 years it was Pennsylvania against the United States. State of Pennsylvania against the United States.
Right.
I don't know if you know, Kobe's dad, Jelly Bean, he was the MVP.
1972.
Yeah, the MVP. MVP.
1972.
And you know, Chubby Cox, that's
Chubby Cott. Yep.
that's your brother. I mean, I had mommy and daddy to Kobe, and then Kobe got
Mhm.
won the MVP. I mean, damn. How do you get that bloodline, right? I mean, how do you can't make that up. That happened.
Right. Right. And so, let me ask you this: was it like you eat Adidas, ABCD? It was Nike, then it was Adidas. Was it any
Reebok.
different? Huh?
Then it was Reebok. I quit.
Right.
I quit
So
Adidas because they lied to LeBron. I mean, I'm
yeah,
crazy. I'm crazy.
right. And ultimately, you know, it's crazy. Somebody asked me, like, because soon as I put up the post that you was going to be on, I got a couple of texts. They was like, man, asking me, like, was that the deciding factor of him leaving Adidas? You know, the LeBron thing. So I'll let you speak on that.
There was no other. Pam and I were leaving. We had the whole team out there. We gave him the Adidas presentation. I told LeBron and his mother that he was going to get $100 million for 10 years. There's no question about that. That's documented. They gave me permission. That was the number I come up with. We got to the day. I didn't see the legal shit. Okay, so Pam and I. I didn't see the legal stuff. So we get there and we open up this board thing. We wine and dine and we got tickets to the Laker game that night. It must have cost us $50,000 to get the whole team. The Lakers were in the playoffs then. So it cost us $20,000 to bring us back there. So now I look at it. It was $70,000 and a bunch of incentives. And there was no supposed to be no incentives. When you pay a guy, that's the incentive. You're paying him. When we are going up the hill, we now moved to Calabasas. And you have to go up the mountain, over the mountain to get to Calabasas, where we were in Malibu for this presentation. I looked at Pam and said, I told her, I said, you know what I'm going to do, don't you, Pammy? She said, yeah, you're going to quit, aren't you? I swear to God, that's how it happened. I knew I couldn't. You know, the reason I couldn't do it, I couldn't stay, I misled a kid. I never told a kid I would do something and couldn't do it. That never happened in my life. We didn't always succeed, but at least I did what I said I was going to do. How can I go to the next LeBron? How can I say I'm going to give you this? I'm going to give you that. And then you go and you come. I'm dead. I wouldn't have got I told those kids to bring their mothers and dads and put them on a plane. I'll take care of you. We have to take care of them. That's what
Your word is everything. Your word is everything, Sonny. And I'm gonna just reflect back to like when we first met, and I always appreciated this, and we talked about this before. How you know I just building a relationship with you. I really didn't have a stable base, and I was talking to you about getting some shoes for my guys and my team, and you were like, hey, here go my fax number. Here go the number. Fax me what you need, and I'm gonna take care of you. And so when I walked away, my mindset was like, man, he's just saying this to get me out of his face. And then and at that time, like I had I had gave the address to my sister's house and whatever. And I was at my mom's house and my sister called me. He's like, all these boxes is from Adidas are out here in front of and so I was like, yo, like so that was like my first dealing with you. And I just love how you treated me. You treated me like I was, you know what I mean? And at that time I was nobody in the basketball community, you know, especially not in Philly. But I mean, I love the way you treated me, man, and that's why I have the utmost respect for you. I mean, you said what you said, you kept your word to me.
I appreciate what you just said, and I mean that a million times. But you know what?
And you probably don't even remember this, Sonny, unless you know me reminded you about it.
I would have thought that I would have done something. I didn't know what it was going to be till you told me. But the point is that I'd like to make, Charles, to your audience is, if I said it, why wouldn't I do it? I mean, that's what I meant about LeBron. I mean, a lot of people think it's bullshit. You know, it ain't bullshit. I was gone. I had 3 more years ago. I had a lifetime contract with Adidas. I mean, they weren't gonna be like Nike did. I mean, Nike like bushwhack. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But then I go to Reebok. I had a couple of years to go in that contract, and I said, it's done. I'm leaving. We had 2 years to go there, and you know, so whatever. So it's been a great life. My wife was pointing at the clock, and she said, Charles loves talking. It's all about Charles in Philadelphia now.
Tell us, Pam, we about to finish up now. I'm gonna do one more question. I just want to get into to the Eddie O'Bannon and the likeness thing? Because you know, and your involvement, was that something that you presented to him, or did he present that to you? How did all that transpire? Because I just wanted to get that clear.
O'Bannon started right after I fought to get Brandon Jennings into Rome in Europe, and that was. And then I knew that the players. I started. I went to 10 or 11 players who were bigger than Eddie, were close personal friends. I've known Eddie most of his life, and his mother and dad, and I knew Charles very, very well. But I hadn't seen Eddie in a while. And I was in Las Vegas for the big time tournament, and Eddie was in the audience, and he came down and said, "Hello, Mr. Vacaro," and he still called me Mr. Vacaro for all these years. And I'm not going to tell you the 11 kids who were 11. They're all, and they're still friends.
All big time guys.
So anyway, Eddie said, "Yeah, I want to do that," because he saw his picture. And so that's how it all started. That's how it all started. Eddie O'Bannon started it. Then I went and got, I don't know if you know this, Bill Russell and Oscar Robertson signed on. I got 2 kids from the Texas Western team, you know, and I got 2 kids from the Kentucky team that played each other in the black-white game in '66. So I had unbelievable. I got all those guys, and then we had, but Eddie started it. Eddie was the first one to say, "I'm going to do this." He went bare ass naked to everyone else. Oscar and Bill were unbelievable. So, and everyone. And Harry Flournoy was one of the black kids that played at that time. He was a grown man now. Harry Flournoy just passed away. He was the captain of that team. You know, and I've had so many unbelievable experiences in my life. So going back to how we got off on this thing here is my word. That's all I got. I ain't got nothing else. If it's no good,
right,
then what am I going to do? I mean, you know.
So just explain the whole thing with the Eddie O'Bannon situation and what y'all actually did in trying to make it better for you know, the college athletes.
Well, right now, you know, we're now at a precipice right now. The Supreme Court is hearing a bigger version of Eddie. You know, we win that, then it'll open the doors.
Okay.
Also, the different states, including Pennsylvania, and 14 of them now, are putting in name, image, and likeness in their states. The athletes are going to get something because of Eddie. It's going to happen. I prefer it to be open market. If we win that, then the athletes will have an option. I can say this to your audience and to all the kids that know me a little bit. God gave us life, okay? Our parents gave us their blood, their image, and their name. Ain't nobody else I can figure into this equation. God first, and mom and dad, however you want to turn it around. That some organization can sneak a piece of paper under a scholarship paper and say, "Sign your name to this, and we own you forever." Ladies and gentlemen, if I could be more clear, if I was, you know, Richard Pryor or somebody, I would end this show on the mark that only Richard or somebody like that can explain. You'd all understand it. I've never seen a worse screwing of an individual than I've seen what the NCAA has done to athletes, and primarily the athletes that earn the money. And the women today, the women are equal to the men in many ways. In fact, I think the girls fight harder than the men. What the girls have done
that's true.
10 years, they've turned it around. Not only the Me Too movement in Hollywood, all over, the soccer players, the tennis players, the girls, the gymnastic players. And you know, I just think the world has turned. And I think the young people of America are ready to understand you only owe somebody something if they buy you, or they.
Right.
That's all.
All right. So listen, I want to close it out. I know Miss Pam said we ain't want to have you on too long, and actually, it's an hour that went past that quick. It don't even seem like it. But I wanted to just take a few questions and then let you end it off the way you want to end it off.
Go
So
for it.
people that's going to feed, if you could shoot some positive questions to Sonny, we're not addressing anything that's negative. If
All
you
they
could
can
shoot some questions,
let them ask
if
what
you
they
could
want.
shoot some questions out. We'll get a few questions in, and then we'll let Mr. Vacaro finish everything out. So shoot with the questions.
Come on, somebody.
They talking about top 5 players from ABCD camp of all
Oh my
time.
God, there's 155. I mean, let's just go to the Kobe and LeBron. I mean, my God, Tracy. I mean, they're all the Hall of Fame. It's hard. That's a hard question.
It's a hard question. That's a hard question.
I mean, there are no bad players at ABCD. There are no bad players.
No bad players. Any other questions?
Most spiritual sports experience. Oh, that. The most spiritual. Boy, I'll tell you what. You're going to think I'm a little goofy or whatever. Okay. Because it had an effect on all my life, it was Tom and Johnny. I mean, I never forgot that. And Peter Norman. I don't know if that's just, but it's a sports. It was after the Olympics. The world was watching it. I mean, and I don't know how else to get it. I mean, spiritual, there was no lightning thing and someone won a ball game or something like that. But that was to me, spiritually motivated. And meeting John Carlos in the 1990s has been a very big enjoyment part of my life, meeting people like that. I actually sat next to Muhammad Ali. I spent time with Jim Brown on a lot of things. I met people who were involved with their lives in the fight, in the movement. I never was involved that way. I got involved in my own way. So, but I during the '60s, the war years and the movement by Dr. King. I was married, had children. I didn't go to the army because I was 4F and all these sort of things. So I never experienced those things. But I think the young man asked a good question. I think spirituality affects each human being in a very quiet way. And if you allow that to be your personality to the masses and speak of it, I think you're doing, however you believe in the God you believe in, a service. And but I think that's the close I get to that.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's try to get the questions. Like, don't take too long on the questions.
Okay.
Somebody asked about the most talented ABCD camp. What was the most talented? They say most talented and successful class in ABCD.
I don't, there's so many again, we got 150, but I'll tell you the one that everyone forgets. Sean Kemp and Alonzo Mourning and, that group in 88, 89. If you go look at that roster, I mean, but then once we got to 2000, I mean, when we were, rocking and rolling and, again, it's tough, but because the camp's 150 kids and Russell Westbrook left camp. I mean, like a day, we had him. He wasn't like a big name in California. My biggest mistake is I didn't know who. I knew his high school coach. I should have known him. His high school coach, Daddy, Reggie Morris, was one of my best friends in my life. So I missed a lot of guys personally. And I leave it up to the Garys of the world to pick the All-Star team. I always had two things. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made is I kept Tony Parker off the All-Star team because he was from France. And I said, we got to put an American kid in there because he'll bring people into the stands. And Tony Parker, that's a true story. I mean, they never let me leave it down, and they shouldn't. But there were just so many great. I don't think there are any bad players there.
Right. Kenny Anderson said, Kenny Anderson said when we asked the question of the top 5, Kenny Anderson said, "You better say me." I laugh out loud.
Kenny, you know what? It's my fault. I haven't seen or talked to you for so long. You're on all the lists. In fact, we just did something for a group that's trying to do something with the ABC camp. You're in there. You're one of the top. You're in there, young fella. You're in it forever. I mean, you used to be in every Hall of Fame there is. I mean, so I wasn't. But when you put it to me, what you also have to do when you're the guy being put to is like, you're going to leave somebody out. So those are the hardest damn questions in the world. Like when I say Benji, I'm probably reflecting on Benji's greatness of what I thought he was going to be. Because
Right.
obviously I don't want to, it wasn't like I saw Michael shoot the shot or I saw these kids at camp for 5 days and how great they were. I mean, that wasn't it. It was a story that he never had a chance to tell. And that's what I take. That's another of my spirituality things. The ones like, but for the grace of God, go anybody, right? I mean, anybody. It could have been anybody. I happened to talk to him 2 days before he was murdered. I talked to him on that Monday. He used to go to that payphone, if you saw the Benji film. There was this little grocery store outside, no cell phones in '84. And he was his mother was sending in the invitation to the Round Ball Classic. That's what I was concerned about. Make sure, because he was now a hero. He was the #1 player in America. Only Tracy did that, come in unknown and went out of camp. All the other, it was a lot of #1s, and Lenny went out less than #1. But LeBron certainly wasn't number 199. We knew who LeBron was. I mean, so he just secured #1 from that day on and never gave it up.
All right, so I seen a question about the AAU. I know you don't know what's going on with AAU today, but they was asking about if this is hurting or helping the kids, like the day AAU. I don't think you know what's going on, but like
I can say this. See, there's this connection between me and the camps, and I never knew AAU. It was summer basketball to me. I didn't know AAU. AAU came into group. I remember when Ernie Lorch and the guy over in New York, the other guy, they used to go to Phoenix to play a game, or Florida through the AAU tournament. That was a big thing in the old days. But AAU to me is a different animal. They sort of like blasphemed the camps, and we're no part of them. Well, you know what? Only thing I knew, all these great coaches, all these great people like yourself that came in, a lot of them weren't, they were just guys like you. They weren't school teachers or whatever. They didn't go up to be the high school coach. At some points they were. But I mean, I can remember Tennis Young very well. I can remember Martino and those guys, and the gun band guy, and what's his name, father. I mean, I had a contingency from Philadelphia every year. Mr. Everly, all these guys, they coached. And Philadelphia, to me, New York, Pittsburgh in the early years, it was the playgrounds. I discovered, I was told by Rodney Parker to go see his kid at, some park up in New York, and it was Albert King. I mean, he was outside. Everybody played outside. I can remember St. Cecilia's because it was about a 5 or 6 hour drive, and it was starting to get a big name. And I knew George Gervin because George started there. So I was in the 70s. So everybody sort of started in somebody, it was either some Catholic school at a gym or a boys club or the recreational center, the YMCA. But most of them were outside. And a lot of it was dirt. That's where I grew up. I mean, there was no 20,000 feet stadiums, or we weren't going to these high school gyms, and now are better than the college gyms in those days. I mean, damn.
Yeah. So listen, Sonny, just the last thing, and I'm gonna let you take us out.
Who was the best shooter at ABCD camp? Is that it?
Hey, Miss Pam, she don't want me to get off. I'm trying to get off.
No,
Yeah, you can answer that. You can answer that.
No, I don't want to answer that because I can't tell you. So,
all right, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we just gonna let you take us out of here. Sonny, I always tell you all the time, over the phone how special you are to me, and your legacy, man. What do you want people to? What's the legacy you want to leave? And when they think of Sonny Vacaro, what you want people thinking about you? Because I know my thoughts, and you're kind, generous, giving man that try to help. They try to help people when you can help them.
You know what? He was my friend. That's okay. That's all I need.
That's all you need? That's cool.
He was my
That's
friend.
Cool. Hey, listen, with that, we're going to end it. Miss Pam, thank you. Hey, Sonny, did this seem like this was a long time?
Did I seem what?
Did this seem like it was it took long?
No. I can just talk for another 2 hours. Pam's doing the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, she said, hey, when the ball says it's time to go, it's time to go. No, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And thanks, Sonny. And we will stay connected because I will keep on reaching out to you.
Is Bill Everly still living or whatever? Bill
Is who that?
Coach Everly?
Bill Ellerby? Yeah. I talked to Coach L, and I told him that you was coming on, and he told me to tell you hi. Alan Rubin told me to tell you hi. So the Philly guys, they told me to tell you hi.
Well, Philadelphia, you helped Sonny Vacaro's life a hell of a lot. I appreciate it. Every kid that played and every coach that came down to Pittsburgh or to camp. Between Pam and I, thank you, Charles. God bless you all.
Thank you. God bless you. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. So we signing out.
Okay, we're done. I'm gonna get up. Pam's gonna check me out. Bye.
All right, thanks. Those that's not following our page, follow our page, All City Classic. And thank everybody for tuning in. You was with the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Sonny Vacaro.